What's the point of school? What's the purpose of graduation? Why do we work hard, chase fame, and build lives that on the surface seem full and meaningful? These are all questions that point back to one thing, and that one thing is purpose. In today's world, purpose is like a treasure that people are eagerly searching for. People are constantly asking, why am I here? What's the reason behind all this diligent work that I put forth? Why is it that I do the things that I do? And ultimately, what will any of it mean when my life comes to an end? You see, not knowing your purpose doesn't just leave a hopeless gap in your mind, it shapes your life to the core. Without purpose, people lose direction, they lose joy, they lose hope, and sadly, they settle for a life that feels meaningless. But we as Christians, we weren't made for an average life. We weren't made to just exist. We as Christians were made to reflect the standard Christ set before us and to live it out boldly. 2 Corinthians 5:21 states, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. Over 2,000 years ago, a man named Jesus Christ walked the earth. He was fully God and fully man. He lived a perfect, sinless life of truth, of purpose, of unmatched standard, and yet he was treated as a criminal. Condemned for a crime he didn't commit, he took on the death that we deserved. After living a life we could not live, he paid the payment that we could not pay. On that cross, Jesus was treated not as he was, but as we are. As though he had lived my life, a life of sin, rebellion, and brokenness. But here's the miracle. Because of Jesus Christ, by grace through faith, God now looks at me as though if I had lived his life, a life of righteousness, holiness, and perfection. Despite all my faults and wrongdoings, God stepped in out of grace to save me. That's the power of the gospel. As John MacArthur puts it, God punished Jesus for my sin, so that one day God could look at me and treat me as if I had lived his life. When God looks at the cross, he sees you, and when he looks at you, he sees Christ. That miracle right there is what gives us purpose. That is what gives everyday meaning. That is why we are different, not seeking to blend in, but to stand out, to lead and to serve, and to set the standard. We as Christians, we don't chase excellence to earn God's favor. We chase excellence because we've already received his grace. Jesus set the ultimate standard in love, sacrifice, and obedience. And now our calling is to reflect that same standard in the way we live, in the way we lead, study, work, and love. We set the standard in classrooms, not for recognition, but to honor the God who gave us our minds. We set the standard in the workplace, not for promotions, but to glorify the one who gave us our purpose. We set the standard in our relationships, not to impress, but to represent Christ and how we should love and serve others. We set the standard in purity, integrity, discipline, and truth, not to earn anything, but to reflect everything he has done for us. But let me speak directly to those of you who do not know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. If you haven't put your trust in him, this hope, this purpose that drives us on as Christians is not yet yours. You may have fame, you may build wealth, you may be admired by the entire world, but one day it will all fade away. Every trophy, every dollar, every like, every promotion, it will all pass away. Any purpose outside of Christ is ultimately empty and cannot compare to the eternal purpose we find in him. 10 out of 10 people die. When your mortal heart reaches its final beat, whether that be tonight or down the road, the only thing that will matter is where you put your hope, either in the sufficient sacrifice of Jesus Christ or the measly works of finite human beings. Homeschooling has carved this message into my life. Whether it be science, math, or history, I've seen that we live surrounded by an incredible creation that boldly points to a creator. A creator who not only intricately fashioned each one of us, but a creator who left the throne of glory to live the life of a servant and die the death of a criminal for people who mock him and sin against him. Through study, I learned that nothing is an accident. We were created with a purpose, to reflect his standard, to live as examples of his truth, love, and holiness in a world that desperately needs him. That is why Christ-centered homeschooling is radically different than everything else. Those students go out into the world not seeking the easiest route, but seeking to reflect the matchless, perfect standard of Christ, driven by the purpose that we find in His sufficient grace. So I ask the question once again, why are we here? We are here to glorify the God who saved us, to live boldly in His name, to reflect His standard, not for applause, but for His glory alone. Because when the world sees Christ in us, they see a standard worth following and a Savior worth knowing. Thank you.